This is like being a school teacher. I get up front and the kids were quiet. Well, maybe not. Thank you again for coming. This is our second of our speaker series this summer. We have packed the room. We still have a few seats. There's a few seats on the side over here. There's a couple down front. So fill them in. Meet somebody. Sit next to somebody you don't know. We're all related. My name is Dennis. I am the president. Basically, they tell me I am the storyteller, which is, my wife will say I'm full of high and I remember things. So, first of all, we were founded in 1948 by Mary Beeler and Dorothy Aldrin and their group. So we've been around for a while. We have been part of the Pierce County Historical Association for well over 60 or 70 years, so they are a big partner of us. We are a nonprofit. No one is paid. We depend upon your kindness. We do get a little help from Pierce County. We get a little help from the city of Prescott and some other organizations. Our new paint job was brought to us by the Prescott Foundation, the city of Prescott, and the Lions Club. So we have new paint, we have new signs, hoping that people will stop in. Our presentations are made possible by the city tourism grant also, and a grant from the Ken and Deanna Rowan family, and from the Merkert family, Jessica and Todd London, and donations from interested people. What we found over the last few years, we have to ask. When you ask, people come up. PHS has a solid core of members, several are in the room, and I have to say thanks. Mary Pat House, Errol Marilla, Elise Block, Chris Foltasak, Tom and Kathy Oz, Shar Mulligan, Susan Metcalf, Trish Foreman, Tanya Kite, Mary Boland, Joe Globitz, Linda Bjorklund, Tom Blank, Tracy Franick, Tim Paul, and me, Dallas Eggers. And we're always looking for members. Always. We need help to make all of this work. We're open every weekend. We've only missed a handful of weekends in 3.5 years. So we're pretty consistent. And a special note tonight is to announce that local historian Chuck Sunday, I think you got a notice. Now I'm a bookseller. My house is full of books. Chuck Sunday, several of you know him. He started working on this book in 1967 as a hobby. It was printed 3 weeks ago. This is a labor of love by him. If you're from Prescott, many of the characters you know from your childhood are in this book. And there's a whole bunch of Wisconsin history that is only in this book. It doesn't exist anywhere else. And actually one of these books is going to the Wisconsin State Archives to preserve that history. So these will be on sale for $50 here. They're also for sale at Linda's Riverbend Antique and Bookshop down the street because we're not open all the time. And she's been selling them. She sold 5 or 6 a week, so they're doing very well. And the painting on the back is by Dr. Tryon Hastings, who has passed away. The inside back cover is by Will Dilg. Will Dilg was the founder of the Isaac Walton League, and he spent many, 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 many days and hours in Prescott, Wisconsin, fishing the St. Croix and fishing the Kinnickinnick River. So it's Zane Gray is in here. All kinds of, a couple presidents are in here. So this is one. The other book is from, our speaker tonight. First met him in person a couple, 3 weeks ago, him and his wife. This is always fun for me to meet historians. Goran came to Lake Pepin 20-some years ago, fell in love with it. And so he's been researching Lake Pepin for the last 20-some years, has produced 2 books. We have them for sale tonight. One is $20, one is $30, and I believe he'll even sign them tonight. He does have a hardcover copy if you're interested in that. But tonight we're going to hear the stories of Lake Pepin. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Goran Pesic.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, this is a great crowd we are having here. My name again is Goran Pesic, and I'm born in Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, and came here to United States in 1993. Came here in Pepin 10 years later, about 2003. That was my first school year there. Came there with my wife, Lori. She's also art teacher right there in Pepin. She's usually the one, helping a little bit, with slides, going and changing, but now I think I'm gonna save her from the job. I might just do that myself this time. I was talking to Dallas. He said maybe it's good to go up there, and would be kind of more room and everything. But I said that I'm tall enough, so it will be just fine. It will be just fine right here, and so that's. And again, thank you again for all coming there. It means a lot to me too. I like when I'm talking about things and I'm presenting some of those stuff. I'm always meeting great people there that can teach me more. All right, I like to get more stories and more insights of something, maybe some different theories on something different there. So please, let me know. Let me know if I missed something and that I can add and that I can change some of the beliefs there based on a new information. That's always a good thing to do. Here again, there is a lot of visuals that I brought. Not, of course, too much space, to put everything around. This is again great museum here. I really love it. First time for me to be here, and I really enjoy it a lot. But here are some of these visuals that I did create, mostly in a classroom. All right, for a classroom usage. So there is a lot of stuff, about Native Americans in the area, beginning, just before even the settlers came in the Pepin area. First settler in the Pepin area to come there was John McCain, together with Newcomb. William Boyd Newcomb was his cousin. They were the first settlers to come to Pepin. That's 1846. And I was always listening all the time about birthplace of Laura Ingalls Wilder, correct, 1867. And that's the history that you usually hear in the area, correct? And but what I was more interested in, what was before? Okay, what was before Laura Ingalls and John McCain? That's a character that I'm also playing there. We're always having a cemetery walks in Pepin, so I would like to invite you all. It's actually fun there, where people are taking characters, different guys there, and standing next to those graves on a Oakwood cemetery there. That's just before Halloween, I believe we are doing that. But it's great history there. So I'm a John McCain, who came from Pennsylvania that year and came to the area. But then again, I wanted to know more. All right, how about Native Americans? What are some of their beliefs? So there is always, they're talking about Pepi the Monster. I don't know if you ever hear of Pepi the Monster from Lake Pepin Monster there. It is right here. These are Native American images. And this is how it became later on in history there, in eyes. That's evolution. There is every myth is having evolution. All right. Every story is having evolution. It's getting better every time somebody new person is telling it. All right. So that's like every other myth or story, in history goes that way. So I'm here, really to share with you, some of the great things about Lake Pepin area, because I really went to all different directions. All right, went to towards Native American mythology in the area, their beliefs, who they were, where they came from, what are some of the great battles that they had in the area. I was able to find really a lot of information about that. Then you are going over there, points of view of French that came in this area too. Then you are looking at the British, some interesting people that also came in the area here. Because first American representative to come to a Lake Pepin area, in this area, it was Zebulon Pike, who came here in 1806. Before that, there wasn't any American representative that came there, and Constitution was ratified in 1788, and we can probably look at that being a beginning of United States of America. So it took 16 years before somebody even came to the area, and probably that would not even happen if there wasn't a Louisiana Purchase of 1803 there, that actually gonna now have a need for them to map everything and to kind of make it official, correct? To announce to the people now they belong to the American government or to the United States. Before, of course, Native Americans didn't know that they belonged to anybody. All right. Of course, French would claim them to. They would write in 1689 was the first document signed in Saint Antoine. That was a fort right here in Lake Pepin. That actually just basically proclaimed entire territory and people living on it being a French property. All right. So that's how usually they do. Europeans do that way, you know, they just put the flag down there and saying this now belongs to King Louis XIV of France, or King George of England. All right, so, but American government did it differently, you know. They come to you there and they make you sign treaties, all right. They make you sell it, and then they have a document, correct, to show, hey, you sold it. It's not that just we took from you, you know, you also sold this to us. So this was kind of a little bit different, you know, how that was happening basically in our area. And again, I did put everything there in a couple of books that I'm having. One is Once Upon a Lake in Pepin, and this will be a new version that will be coming up. I wanted actually to have this done before summer, but didn't have time. There was some other projects I was working on. But this is how it's going to look like. All right, that version there will be color book on Once Upon a Lake in Pepin, a tale of the birthplace of Laura Ingalls Wilder. And I like some of these images there, like a French forts in our background. Our favorite Pepe, you can talk about him, you know, if you're interested to know, you know, a little bit more stories about, especially from the Native American point of view. Of course, steamboats, we cannot go without them. Maiden Rock, probably the most known story from Lake Pepin, the leap of beautiful Dakota girl, you know, that couldn't marry who she wanted, and at least that's a story there, and now we can kind of explore a little bit more to see how much truth in some of those versions is, and what is the first version, and I always try to go back, and even to try to find out when that happened. That's always a great here, and I was just talking here to the great gentleman there, it is actually putting a book together there, you know, maybe soon, you know, that's going to tell me some more stories of that. I would love to know. I would love to know some more. And of course there is also B-24 that crashed there in the Lake Pepin in December 15th, 1944 during the World War II. So there is a lot of great stories, you know, to be told. So here is a book I put together on mysteries of Lake Pepin. There is the 50 greatest mysteries of. It is a color book. There is a lot of cool images on all these things that we can be talking about. All right. We'll be talking some of those even tonight. Of course, I'm having a slideshow here, and now I'm up to 220 different stories and mysteries, all right, of Lake Pepin area. There is a lot of things happened in this area here. So please, you know, if you are interested to, you know, in after this, of course, too, you know, there is some books there that you can have, all right. That would be telling you a little bit more about all research and everything that went to this work, you know, to put some of these things together. Like I say, almost this is like a guide there. These are only 50 of those, and now I'm going to have 220, and this is part one, and I believe that I'm going to have probably part two done sometimes, I hope, before end of next school year, you know, that's a plan. So we'll see how that's going to work. But this also is planned, everything, you know, that I'm doing here tonight, that I would like audience, you know, to choose some of those stories if you want to hear some more about. That's why you have these booklets there with different mystery cases on anything that you're interested in to learn more about, or to make some more comments about something, all right? This is great there. I always like to involve audience in presentations, all right? Anything that you have questions about, you can always raise the hand, and we can go deeper into some of those mysteries. Again, when we are talking about Lake Pepin, now let me see, you know, if I can do this. Oh, all right. Without help of my wife there. All right. Hey, I did it. All right. So this is also in a book there, Secrets of Lake Pepin, a driftless area. Lake Pepin is almost explained there as an epicenter of driftless area there that is having, when I talk about here about mysteries, I'm actually talking about history about something that people put together or put out there, all right, that we can use to track and trace some of the people's stories and people's beliefs there. And also, there is a lot of archives, you know, that every story that is in here, you know, it's having at least 2 to 3 sources. And that at least I try to find to kind of look at something from a different angles. Again, when we talk about driftless area, and why it is called driftless area, that's basically, all this area from, I believe from here all the way down to Iowa, coming on both sides, on Minnesota side and Wisconsin side, that was never touched by glaciers. Right? And this makes it unique because Wisconsin, for example, was plowed by these glaciers. So all layers of the history that is newer, and when I talk newer, I'm talking about 500 million years to today, all right, it's erased because those glaciers will just basically just plow everything down and send down south. But another thing, that happened in our area here, these glaciers for some reason came around. All right, they came around and they never touched this this region here that really is unique that way. That's why we can enjoy our bluffs today. We can enjoy all these different, different hills that are around and everything that we know, that glaciers didn't go through. But we also don't have any record in the last 500 million years. Why? If you're not touched by glaciers. All right, these glaciers created really a huge lakes up north by Canada, all right, the North United States, and these lakes had to find a way to go down. And they will be coming down once those glaciers move up. All right. So when that broke through, you can just think about this cataclysmic event when all this water just poured through and made it funnel. It made this funnel here that we now talk about bluffs above, correct? And just basically plowed through. So also we don't have any record of dinosaurs or anything of that kind, in the last 500 years. But everything before that we can find. So we can find different organisms, fossils that are still in the rocks here in our bluffs, all right, that are giving us the history before 500 years ago. There is only one thing that is preserved. We know that dinosaurs were here. We know that there were some different animals and plants, correct, from that era. We know that most of the stuff you can find today in South Dakota. But again, they know that Wisconsin just looked like South Dakota, all right, once upon a time. So we had all these animals that also died in this area here, but they were all washed through, all right? Everything is washed. Even prehistoric animals, we cannot find mammoth, we cannot find saber-toothed tiger or any of those, prehistoric animals here because everything is washed. But is it? All right, and this is where you can find some stuff. In Spring Valley, there was a professor from a University of River Falls that was digging a basement or garage, making garage, I believe, something like that here by his property. And he actually came to the layers there that had a different color on, all right? Because he's a geologist, he knew right away what he's looking at, all right? He was looking at something that is coming from Jurassic era. And for first time, he's now getting some of those rocks there, trying to see if he can find something in. And he found these two perfectly preserved leaves that are coming from back then, all right? That are about, I believe, was it 180 million years ago, all right, that he found there. And those are perfectly preserved. So he actually proved that actually once upon a time, same of these dense woods and same kind of vegetation was here in Wisconsin and Minnesota, like it is now in, like they're finding now down in South Dakota. So you can find like all these things around, all right? Also in a cave down there by Winona, they found some remains of saber-toothed tiger in a cave. All right, so that one was preserved. All right, so they know that all these animals were here in the area. But you can just imagine how catastrophic this event was. All right, if you're looking at the bluffs, I know that everybody was down there in Lake Pepin area. So you're looking at the bluffs around that made this perfect funnel. That's how William Pike explained all this wind that is going through, and making unstable sailing or going through the Lake Pepin many times. You don't know when the storm gonna just show there. He called it funnel that all this wind is going through and making actually even a climate a little bit different on Lake Pepin than it is in a surrounding area. But when you are looking at those bluffs there, 500 million years ago, those bluffs actually were the bottom of the ocean. all right, of the ancient ocean there. So that whole down, that we are now calling Mississippi River, correct, didn't exist. It was just flat. So you can see how this water that melted there just basically just pushed everything through. Pushed everything through, you know, down south. So a lot of things, you know, are really great when you're just looking even at geology or geography of the area. You can even, when you're looking at the bluffs from a certain points, you can see that it's identical almost all these coulees that are coming through. And you can almost see, you know, they look identical. That tells you that the same force pushed through. All right. So did it happen just once or several times? All right. That would be interesting to talk to somebody, you know, who knows that pattern there. But you can see that same pattern there that is created by the same force. All right, that went down. And this kind of makes it really, really great. All right, really great and amazing. Just to, I always like being on my pontoon there and going and taking rides down and looking in these bluffs. All right, looking at everything there, thinking where these creeks are coming through. That's usually a place where you can find some Native American artifacts too, where the creeks are meeting the Lake Pepin. There is a couple villages right there. I kind of like that word, that funnel. All right, how that wind is going through. That's why probably Native Americans didn't build their permanent villages on Lake Pepin. But they have a lot of summer villages, at least they believe that are just summer villages were here on a Lake Pepin. All right. So there is like a King Cooley's site that is on the Minnesota side. There is a Hotonwakpa village in Pepin, means roaring river. That's actually a Hicks Creek. All right, it's not that roaring, but you know, for them probably was making a lot of noise there. But a lot of great history there that are making these stories that I can put in a book there called Mysteries of Lake Pepin. And there is a lot of those that you can find. All right. Lake Pepin is having a lot of stories, you know, that we can further talk about. I'm having always these slides there. I actually made 220 slides, and I'm having a little cheating, all right, booklet. It tells me here, you know, about steamboats, most popular ones, Native Americans, half-breed tract. We can talk about that one there on Lake Pepin. That today, for example, is one of the largest or biggest, let's say biggest, lawsuits filed in Minnesota history. It is filed by Dakota half-breeds or their descendants. Half-breed tract actually was given to Native Americans in 1830 by the treaty. By the demand of Wapasha, Wapasha II of the time, right, was given to people of mixed descendants. That means those that are French, children that are born between French and Native Americans, or English and Native Americans. Right? So they decided to find 400 souls that actually they gave these scripts of land there in an area called Half-Breed Tract that was running from Wapasha or Kellogg all the way to Red Wing. And then 14 miles inland in Minnesota all the way to Plainview and just running that straight line down. Huge land there, I believe it is about 300,000 acres or 360,000 acres, huge amount of land. It was given by the document, but they found some loopholes there that they would just, of course, take this land away from them. Many of them after the uprising of 1862, many of these speculators from Minnesota, including a general there, including some very popular people there today in Minnesota, even the founder of today's St. Paul, all right, was one of those. They would actually go even in a concentration camp that was in Fort Snelling, and they would be promising freedom to those natives who give them these scripts there, who give them these documents of the ownership. Then they would be taking these documents, and I believe they would be selling them even in Nevada down there. There was a big rush there, gold or silver rush in Nevada there, for exchanging this for a wealth that these people would be digging out of the ground there. So that was probably one of the biggest treasures in the area. But these natives that are survive of that and now their descendants, they are taking United States government to court. And this was filed just last year, I believe October 24th, when they filed this claim. It's kind of interesting to just follow that. And they're asking for $5 billion, or maybe $6 billion, all right, or land back. All right. But we'll see, it would be very interesting to see how they would be denied. But usually that's how government usually going to find something and say, all right, on a basis of this, we cannot grant. Usually they know the language how to put this together, correct? But it makes really interesting, thing, to see how this is going to happen, all right? That also makes one of the mysteries there, how the land was taken and how everything was put together that way. All right, is there a master plan that was put together how to drive these Native Americans out of their land and take this back? All right, so it's kind of interesting thing to find these documents and to find the ways how some of that land was taken away. That makes an interesting thing when we talk about newer history now for Native Americans in our area. But we are talking also about now Lake Pepin as a place of different mysteries, correct? We are having at least that I found 12 steamships that sunk in Lake Pepin. There is countless incidents, even written down by Zebulon Pike, later on by Beltrami, Constantino Beltrami from Italy. All right, when he came here, on one of those expeditions in 1817 or 1823. All right, there were two of those. Just trying to remember which one was. They also claim that there was this wind just suddenly comes through the funnel. All right, they like to use that word. All right, and just we almost all sunk in there. One boat had a problem. They even have people in water that they have to pull out and help them, to come safely on the shore. It came out of nowhere. All right, so they always talk about these dangerous waters of Lake Pepin. All right, we are having also B-24 airplane that crashed there in December 15th of 1944 in Lake Pepin. So that makes many of those people, some people disappearing there in Lake Pepin and everything, and sometimes they're calling one area there in Lake Pepin Bermuda Triangle, all right, for our area. All right, so that is kind of interesting when you kind of find some of that information, and everything to put together there, but makes really great stories. Another stuff you can find there in the booklets that I gave you, those are great ways, to ask some of those questions there. But there is more stories there. When I talk about these 12 steamships, one of them was Seawing, all right, on July 13th, 1890. This was a steamship that was carrying about 150 people, all young people between 17 and 23. They were coming from Red Wing and Diamond Bluff, coming all the way to Lake City to watch some military parade there. There was a base right there in Lake City. So there was a lot of food, a lot of fun and everything, and at night when they were coming back, they were hit by the big storm. It sunk, and 98 of these kids drowned. This was one of the largest tragedies in upper Mississippi area. This is a great, I don't want to call great, but a story. Story is something that is to be more explored, to find out how that happened. All right, who is responsible for something like that? Is it Lake Pepin and its treacherous storms that are coming there? Or is it again human faults, Maybe some people got greedy there, selling too many tickets and having too many people in a boat. So we can kind of talk about those too, So great stories you can find on the Lake Pepin. And there is story after story. I think I collected probably most of those, all right, that I put them together. 220 different mysteries in this, that I put together there that can be further explored and further finding some more information. Of course, I only spent about 23 years of my life, doing this. All right. So I'm just a pioneer in this kind of business. All right. But there are a lot of people, of course, before me and that are doing their research on the side there and focusing more on particular things, correct? What my idea was, to find everything and to pile everything there and to try to find correlation between all these stories, to put them together, and kind of to make almost like a living history there, all right, for people that can see, and short stories, explanations about, that makes us all think about and makes us all research more about it, find some more stuff, that we can do. there are more things, we can talk about. One of those, in the year of 1867 was a year where Laura Ingalls Wilder was born. Everybody in Pepin knows about Laura Ingalls Wilder. But also 1867, that same year when she was born, the first story of Lake Pepin monster originated. It was known as Pepi, all right? Pepi monster of Lake Pepin. It's interesting about that one, there, because all stories that you read there, that I read when I came, when you read a newspaper article or anything about Pepi, they always say, okay, it was first time. Sometimes they use the year also of 1871. But 1867 is the oldest story I found. Was some rafters from St. Louis that came in the area of Wabasha and came to Lake Pepin. They are the ones who reported first this huge monster in Lake Pepin. We can go even further there. All right. Later on, if you want to do a Father Hennepin, who reported something like that in 1680. All right. But what I found always problem with this, they always say, all right, even before that, this is only sentence that you can find. In every article is only one sentence. Before, all right, this report of 1871, sometimes they use that year mostly, Native American Dakota were afraid crossing the Lake Pepin because they were afraid of the monster from the waters that are going to just make up punctures in their canoes, all right, and bring them down and drown them. That's why they will be having these dug-out canoes instead of the birch canoes, going through Lake Pepin. This is only one sentence or two sentences about it, and I always wanted to say, all right, what is more about this? All right, there must be a story of Native Americans, what this thing is, images of this, what these stuff are. What are these water monsters that they are having even effigy mounds built all over Wisconsin in that shape? All right, calling it the same. All right, this was a big entity in mythology, not only of Dakota, but Ojibwe, Fox. All right, every Native American basically group that was in Wisconsin had these same stories. And here is the guy called Unktehi. All right, Unktehi is a Native American Pepi. He also have a female called Unsegila, that's a female entity, and in their stories there are also little Pepis that are running around. Right? So there is more. But then again, Lake Pepin, they say it is a place where these monsters were forced to come into the water. All right, why they are forced to come into the water? They are forced to come into the water because of Vakinyan. Vakinyan is thunderbird. All right, in their mythology, Thunderbird is coming every spring, in April, I believe. You have to find that exact date. All Native Americans of this area will be getting together and coming on a Barnes Bluff, all right, having a big festivities there to welcome the return of Vakinyan. That's basically lightning storms that will be coming, usually starting in April and hitting this area really hard there. And the story is saying that Unktehi, the monster, at the time will be coming on the shores of Lake Pepin and coming to the villages there and killing a lot of people, devouring people, grabbing them there, taking them back to the water. And then the Vakinyan will be called from the skies. They believe he's coming from the Milky Way. That's where the heavens is. So they're looking at the skies, there is a Milky Way, and they believe all souls that die, they're going up there. And there is a great spirit, and he's sending Vakinyan down to the earth, correct? To the people, to the humans, to bring the spring and to bring the new life, all right? Or New Year. Kind of very interesting story there. Sometimes kind of remind you sometimes of some of those Greek mythology there, some of those things there. But what I found interesting in the story, it's saying that Unktehi got in this big fight with Vakinyan. So Thunderbird had this huge battle with Unktehi, forcing Unktehi to lose this battle and to go straight into the Lake Pepin, never to come out again. All right. So their belief is that the Unktehi is still on the bottom of the lake. All right. It's coming occasionally up, but it cannot anymore come on the shores because he was defeated and he is not coming out of the waters of Lake Pepin anymore. So their idea is that Barn Bluff is the place where is a birth of Vakinyan, the birth of Thunderbird. And not only Native Dakota, but we can go back to all these different groups, all right, that were there before. We are talking here about Oniota that were there before. All right, there are those that have built all these big mounds in the area of Lake Pepin on both sides. They are usually ceremonial mounds. They didn't use them for burials. But before them even, we had woodland people who actually had all these mounds there, and they were many times, influenced by the mound builders, Adina, Hopewell, that were also coming here, in the area of Buffalo County, for example. And of course, in 1000 AD, we had Mississippians coming from Cahokia all the way to Diamond Bluff and coming to the area of Red Wing. And they had this huge cult of worshipping Vakinyan, or worshipping the Thunderbird. So this thing is coming really, really far back in time. Not even probably from Mississippians, probably coming with Hopewell, that influenced the people in the area of that time to make all these mounds and effigy mounds. So when we can see, Unctehi and Thunderbird mounds are still all over Wisconsin. So this is a really, really old cult of worshipping in this area. So why they believe, this is kind of like a very interesting story, why they believe there is a monster in Lake Pepin. Or why they believe there is Vakinyan, that is a bird right there on the Lake Pepin. All right? And there is these geologists, archaeologists got together, and they made a study right here in the Red Wing. It's actually a very good study there. I believe last name is Maki, of one of them. I have to find this. It's actually very good stuff there. It is in my book too. That I have explained this a little bit further down using their studies. They did a study on a soil in a sites of Oniota and Dakota sites right here in a Red Wing. And they found that this area, and particularly a couple areas there, Bryan sites, I believe, and other one there, closer even to the Prairie Island, all right, that is 10 times more prone to the lightning strikes than the area around. All right. So they tried to explain why it is just this area hit by all these lightning strikes there more than the surrounding area. They had a few theories there. One of them is that they built mounds in that area. They also put some pikes in. This is going to attract some of that lightning coming there and maybe magnetize the ground, and then more lightning will be coming later on. But then again, they cannot explain how these natives knew that this is the area where more of these lightnings are striking the ground, more likely to strike than anywhere else. All right, in a surrounding land. So that's why they believe that actually Barn Bluff and this area here of Lake Pepin is the birthplace for their Vakinyan or Thunderbirds. And if you went on a 35 highway, all right, there is this great image here, or not image, but if you stop there on a 35, there is a historical marker that is there, and it's talking about this only stone-made effigy in Wisconsin. All right. There are some of these stone structures made by natives. They're not sure even who did it. They believe Oniota did. Right here by Red Wing, there is 15 stone cairns that are usually, about this tall and wide, and they are not even sure now why they built those. And just maybe about a mile or 2 miles away from them, on the Wisconsin side, you're having another structure that is also made just only on a rock. In 1903, archaeologists who came there, he believed that this is actually representing the bird or bow and arrow. All right. If it's bow and arrow, that means it has to be old about between 600 and 900 AD, because this was a time when bow and arrow were introduced to this area. All right. It cannot be before, if it is that the case. Or bird. Why would they just put a bird? All right. Of course, they have birds here all the time in their effigies, but my idea is it's actually facing straight the Barn Bluff. All right. It's facing Lake Pepin. Their story about origin of Vakinyan or Thunderbird, all right, is very strong in this area. Their ideas of Unctehi, the Pepi, the monster, being under the water, right, is very strong there. So if that effigy is facing that way, this must be the effigy representing Thunderbird, if it is made by Native Americans. But there is also stories that this is made in 1870s by kids that were very bored that summer. All right, and they're taking all these rocks, probably from a nearby farm, and they're just throwing these rocks down and creating something like this. All right, at least some people believe in that too. Especially down when you come to Hagar City, you know, there is stories about this. You know, they even know a family that these kids were from that did this. All right. Why they might believe this, you know, it's still puzzling everybody. But what puzzles me, you know, there is not really archaeological study made on this. There is not one archaeological study made of this structure, all right? And that kind of makes me, you know, believe, all right, that maybe they don't believe this is made by Native Americans. Why also they don't believe? Because Dakota, Native Dakota don't have any recollection of this. When you ask them, you know, they don't know nothing about that. Who was before them? Oneota. They usually might pass something through, you know, but Oneota doesn't, or their descendants, Iowa, all right, or any of those, you know, that might have connections to this location, they don't have any recollections. So if it is a woodland people, all right, maybe it was about 600 to 900 AD that something like that was made. But again, see, now I'm going far deeper into this stuff that I actually wanted. But what the thing is, you know, there is a lot of really stories and mysteries that you can find in Lake Pepin area. There were thousands of, hundreds and thousands even of mounds built on Lake Pepin and around. Most of those were burial mounds made in the last 2,000 years. Actually, let's go back, you know, now. If Dakota didn't build those, you know, so let's say 1,600 years so, of making of some of those mounds in the area, all right? There are even some sites there that I found, you know, now we are having that technology. Is it LiDAR or LIDAR? How are we going to read it? LiDAR, all right? A LiDAR is basically just coming from above there, and it's just clearing all vegetation and showing you any anomalies on the ground. And there was one location that I was going there with my friend there, Ted Johnson from Pepin there, and he showed me these things, and we are walking around counting some of these mounds. We counted 23, and then when I look at the LiDAR, I found additional mounds, so there is 32 of them. All right, so additional 9 that you can find there. Basically in the same location where Fort Antoine will be built by French. Then you are seeing how those are put together in 2 lines, all right? This is kind of, I never saw kind of like that precise kind of put in geometrical pattern, all right? That almost made me wonder, you know, if there is some influence maybe from Europeans for this mound to be put together. But that's kind of our, you know, idea there. But it's actually like really makes a nice mystery on the Lake Pepin again. Who built that, all right? Why it is having kind of nice 2 lines, and again, facing Lake Pepin, all right? Right there, you know, just under the bluff, you know, they're just facing Lake Pepin. Kind of really, a really great, great site again. Native Americans have left a lot of little things around. A lot of stories, mysteries, you know, that I'm still trying to collect, all right? And I'm surprised how much new stuff I always find. Just when you think that you're done, all right, you just hear another story and tell you, oh boy, I'm wrong all along, you know, so now I need to go again from the beginning. All right, but that's beauty about that, you know, makes you really excited, you know, and to really look into these things, you know, and to find these things and try to understand, all right, how they did it, who were those people, what were their beliefs. Unfortunately, that big problem is, when I was talking to Dallas there, you know, a few days ago, he got me thinking. He said, oh, I was down in Yucatan, Dallas story, you know, and I saw all of their structures, what they built, those pyramids and everything. Then I went down to Peru, and I was looking at the Inca structures. And he said, like, how much better these structures are of Mayas down in Yucatan Peninsula than those in Incas. And I'm saying, like, you know, yeah, this is great, you know, I never thought about that, you know. I was thinking about the Peruans, how they made those cuts and everything, it was amazing, all right? But then it makes me think, all right, why some of those stuff are structurally sound over the hundreds of years, all right? In comparison to Incas, when they build something there, and then you can see kind of deterioration of some of stuff, a little bit less quality coming later on. Only one explanation is, all right, they didn't have writing down in South America. Writing was, but down in Mexico, Yucatan, Guatemala, and all that area there, Belize, they had a writing system. They could preserve in writing the way how they did something, how they're building different things. All right, and just by having writing, you can advance in your building and not decline. All right, over time. Similar thing we can see in Egypt too. Some stuff that they didn't record back in time and how they cut some of the granite stones. What in the world they used to cut granite stones with? All right, nobody cannot explain that much. Now I think they believe introducing some ammoniac, something they introduced to this thing, making this bronze being stronger. I was just watching some History Channel, that's where it comes from. Right? But it's so dangerous to make, and you have to be very careful because whoever is in that room can get poisoned from all that gas coming through, correct? But you can see they did this in a period of time. This was one of the biggest secrets of theirs, and then it died, all right, over time. Then they started making these structures that we still get amazed by, called pyramids, correct, and everything else. How in the world they did this? But you can see the cuts on the stones are not the same and precise and good quality like they were before. Why? Because they didn't write it down. All right, they didn't write it down. So when you're talking here about Native Americans in our area, all right, you can be amazed in one group what they did, and then you don't have nothing for 500 years. Then again, something great happens. It was coming in pikes that way, in oscillations. All right, and that can be only explained by the fact that prehistory basically in our area was until 1659, when the first white person, at least it is believed, he came here to the Lake Pepin area and Prairie Island, where they stayed over winter. Somebody believe even they stayed during the winter in a door, I don't know how it's called, that peninsula down there, where YMCA is. Deer Island. Yeah, that's why I'm having my helper here. Starting forgetting some stuff. All right, Deer Island. All right, they believe that actually they stayed right there between Deer Island and Stockholm somewhere. All right, over that winter. That's one of those beliefs. His name was Esperit Radisson. All right, who was the first white French who came to Lake Pepin area, and it is believed that the year of 1659 is the beginning of the history of this area. Difference, again, we all know between history and prehistory is that history started with writing. When you're able to write down your experiences, write down the things you did, write down the names of the people. Finally, we can learn the first names of Native Americans in 1659, not before that. And I hate that because you can only guess who was there. You only can guess how great some of those were. All right, you can only guess who that Thunderbird actually was. We were talking about Wakinyan, because Mississippians were presenting their greatest kings as being a Thunderbirds, all right? So they great some warrior of the back in time, but we don't have a clue what the name was of that great king. So that's how important that writing is, all right? This is why for the first time I can actually read about what happened in some place. We don't need to guess no more, all right? This is what archaeologists are doing, correct? You have to dig stuff, you spend all the time there, record everything, and then based on the data, you can only guess. Not guess, you have intelligent guessing, correct? You can actually make assumptions, how they lived, what they liked, what they disliked. But with the beginning of the writing, you know exactly what they did, why they did, and who did it, all right? And this kind of make my job a little bit easier too, when I'm looking at some of those stuff, there to, because my work is basically getting conclusions of other people, all right? That's what definition of a teacher is. We are thieves, correct? We are stealing somebody else's wisdom. We are stealing somebody else's knowledge. And we try to put this together and make a meaning of that and then look smart in front of the audience. That's basically what we are, right? So we are not the ones who are doing that hard work of digging, finding stuff. We are just taking conclusions of a lot smarter people than we are. All right, and this is the one thing. But I like that, to put all of those combined together, because I don't think in our area there, nobody yet did like a study this way, that you take all of this information and just piling on you right now. All right, putting that together, all right, having all these different stories together and try to find a pattern, try to find connections between. All right, and this is what I'm proud of myself, all right, on one way, I'm actually Montenegrin. They call us lazy ones, all right, over there in Europe. You know, we are lazy ones. We are tall like this, you know. That's why we are one of the tallest people, you know, in average in the world. Fighting those Turks for ages, all right, in the Balkan mountains. They never conquered the Montenegrins. We believe that's because we are so strong and so powerful, but no, because we didn't have nothing to steal from, all right? So why would they go up there, you know? They just probably wave their hand, you know, and just go somewhere where it's easier to get stuff, all right? Something like English and Scottish, correct? Scotland, people in Scotland, you know, Romans had to build all those walls, you know, to keep them out, all right, from everybody there. They didn't bother to go north, all right? They just said, better just don't go up there. Those crazy Scots seem like crazy Montenegrins there, you know, in a different sense. So now I just covered, what, 10 stories out of 214? See how this goes? All right? See how that goes? All right? What else would you like to know? Oh yeah. All right. Maiden Rock, correct? Maiden Rock Leap. We all hear about that story, you know, there. I was just having a nice conversation there. I need to talk more to one person here, you know, that knows a lot more about this. I found a lot of information about, everybody knows about Lake Pepin, about Maiden Rock Leap. Was that Winona chief's daughter? But again, everybody believes that Winona means chief's daughter, but Winona is firstborn daughter in any family, all right? And in some of those stories, for example, Kiska was her loved one, but who is Kiska there? It is actually a firstborn boy in a family, correct? So, because there is no proofs there that it was a chief's daughter, it is only in the stories of the people who are telling that, it can be basically anybody, all right? But then again, is the story true? First time recorded story ever was in 1806. At least that I found there. I didn't find any older stories than that. That's the Bullion Pike who wrote down. Story was only about one paragraph. Very short, all right? But then, later on, you know, 1817, the captain there asked that same guide to tell him the same story. He told him the same story, and now the story got 2 paragraphs up. Then we have Mary Eastman, you know, I love that lady there. Her husband was commanding officer in Fort Snelling in 1830s, and then 1840, I believe, all right? He made some great paintings of this area, including the Maiden Rock Leap painting that he made, you know, it's really great from 1830s there. She was the one that found some other person who will tell her the story there. And this time the story was on 3 pages, all right? That's the one that we like. So you can see kind of evolution of the story, how it is progressing, all right? And then you try to, as a historian on one way, you try to find historical accounts of something. Who you can find that can, you know, can you identify who those people are? Who are they, all right? And then you can go back, you know, and you're looking at, you know, what these people believe, how long ago this was. One person said 100 years ago, somebody said only a decade ago or 2 decades ago. So it is, and then you're looking at relationships between Ojibwe and Dakota. They were friends there for since 1680 to 1736, all right? So that's 36 plus 20, 56 years. When you look at the DNA of both of those tribes, I kind of like to look at that too. It's almost identical DNA. That means they really intermarried a lot, all right? So if you have a story there about a Dakota girl in love with somebody from Ojibwe, all right, how that gonna happen? It has to happen during the time when they were in a peace, all right? They also say that that thing happened, that they were attacked right here by La Crosse. I believe it was La Crosse, yeah. That group of that family was attacked there. That's, I believe, the story from Mary Eastman there. When they were coming back, they actually noticed somebody in the woods. They didn't know who they are. They are spying on them, all right? And then they would be attacked on the Lake Pepin in 1736, all right? And killed. Entire family of Winona, let's call her that way, you know, died. And then you were kind of looking at, you know, and saying, all right, if they were seeing somebody already scouting at them, they didn't get that scared that this is Ojibwe, dangerous one, all right? That must be a time when they didn't have a fear of Ojibwe, all right? So did that happen in 1736? That was the first year when actually Ojibwe, driven by, all right, I'm having all these charts here. Oh, here he is, all right. Here is Pierre Gauthier, all right. He was the reason for beginning of the wars between Ojibwe and Dakota. After 56 years of cooperation and friendship, Ojibwe were forced into attacking Dakota villages. Here on Lake Pepin, they started this. I learned this from the oral historians of Ojibwe people, all right, from Lake Superior. And this is a professor, I believe, there, maybe even in Duluth University, all right. And he was the one saying that first invasion of Dakota villages were on Lake Pepin, all right. So is that a year? See, so now you have, but this is guessing, correct? But this is guessing based on historical, some of this evidence that you can maybe make some of conclusions, you know, when does something like that happen. But if it happened, why the French didn't report anything? They were right there, just across, was their fort, all right, where today's Villa Maria is. So right there, you know, was a fort of the French. How they didn't see this? But French left in 1737. All right, they left the area because they had a lot of problems there with Dakota at that time. All right, and they just left the area because who started that fight there was that French guy from Canada there because his son got killed, ambushed there. As a revenge, he actually ordered all the Ojibwe and Cree Indians to invade Dakota, to attack Dakota. And this would be a beginning of those wars. French had to leave. So did that happen in 1737? Maybe a year after that. All right? It's kind of interesting stuff, you know. And then, you know, when you are having a lot of free time, like I do, you know, you kind of can start thinking about this, these little things. And especially when you're talking about, you know, even lecturing something, and you are talking about that. This is kind of interesting thing about us teachers too, you know. I'm talking to the students there about 1736 and how the war started between Ojibwe and Dakota. And then suddenly comes to you, you know, when these French left, Maiden Rock Leap story, all right, comes there, and then you start making these connections. And then you say, start telling this story to the kids, all right, of course they're going to start falling to sleep, you know, very soon there if you start, all right, and that's okay, you know. I mean, what is a sad thing too, you know, us teachers know this, all right, we have this, I told somebody we have this handicap, we like to talk a lot, you know, these little things, you know. We like to think about stuff deeper there and trying to tell people about it. But what we are actually doing, you are rethinking stuff again, all right? So now you're putting some new information in, and you are changing your previous stand, or you are expanding your story on something, expanding your understanding on something. So basically, you know, in a classroom there, I always have this big chart there, to remind kids there, you know, if I'm lecturing longer than 20 minutes, you know, just to stop me. Why? Because you are having this chart there, and that's a pyramid of learning, all right? On the top there, it's saying, you know, how much you learn if you only listened. All right. I can have the best show here, right? I can be jumping, you know, I just go to Dallas, I'm even jumping from here down there, you know, and doing all these stances there. But I don't want to get hurt, you know. Maybe a couple of years back I might consider that. But whatever I do, and whatever I tell you, how much would you, what would be your retention rate after 24 hours? How much would you remember from all these great stories I was telling you? All right, you will all remember 5%. All right. If you already knew some of these things, and when I'm telling you about those, now you are putting those stuff together, maybe that retention will be a little bit more, all right? Because you already know some of those stories. But it is 5% if you are the first time hearing something from me, and now no matter how I tell you this, and how well I can talk, all right, or don't, all right, you're only going to remember 5%. But how much you remember if you are lecturing and teaching, all right? Your retention rate after 24 hours is 90%, all right? So this is a science, all right, 90%. Now we can think about, that can kind of vary between, all right, 5%, you know how that goes there. What kind of learners we are. Some people are auditory learners, correct? You hear me talking, all right, and you already can put this story together, all right? By my experience, those are usually people who read a lot, all right? And they're already training their mind to just make, to already understand whatever is there, they're having that picture inside of their mind, all right? That's only 5% of us are auditory learners, all right? But the biggest percentage of people that we are learning there are visual learners. So that means I need to see something to learn, all right? So I like visuals, all right? I like to look at the pictures. It makes me actually, connecting things together. Because you see all these charts around. Of course, they're now down below there, all right? We cannot see them well, all right? They're right here, usually in the classroom, I always hang them around, right? I find a way to hang them around. So entire lesson is right there. So when I start right here and finish right over there 10 days later, all right? We can go back and forth and say, okay, remember this here? And now connect to that one, all right? And now you're making those connections, all right? Still, of course, I'm the only one learning if I'm the only one lecturing, all right? And this makes it, on one way sad, correct? But on one way, it's making that self-satisfaction of these, how we gonna call them, these teachers that are so selfish, correct? You're just, we like to be the ones learning, thinking, we are talking smart and we know something. But the truth is, we know so little, and we just use that little, just to try to explore more. And this is, like one of those things, I wanted, again, to share with you, how we learn, how I learn. For example, person brings me artifacts from Lake Pepin. I like to use my cheating chart, all right? If you bring me your arrowhead or spearhead, all right? Yes, it is Ozarks, but the same stuff are right here in Pepin area. They bring you something, and you see how they look like. All these shapes are a little bit different, from different eras, correct? Coming all the way down to 10,000 years ago, all the way to about 200 years ago. If you bring an arrowhead, and you just basically take it, and put it just next to these stuff, all right? You can actually date your artifact, or being pretty sure how old some artifact is, and which group of people that belongs to. So I like cheating charts, correct? These cheating little things. Somebody bring me something, all right, I don't need to guess no more, you just go like here and, wow, this is it, all right? Must be coming, from early archaic period, 6,500 years BC, all right? This is kind of like a very old. Of course, I have to check this again, to see how that looks like, because that's too old sometimes, to believe in it myself. All right, but here is, little bit of kind of everything, I like to have this all around the classroom there. I always want to remind myself when I forget something, I know exactly where to look, what year, how it happened, Over time, we tend to forget stuff. So if you're not repeating these things and telling you this again and retelling, it will be lost. Use it or lose it, correct? That's one of those things. That's why, I also started recording that and putting that in a books. All right. Again, great book there on Mysteries of Lake Pepin, but there is a lot more. What did we just talk about? Now maybe 12. All right. Let's see. All right. Some people are claiming there is a lot of UFO sightings. All right. Who believes in UFO? All right. Okay. There is statistics there, right? Even of us that are not raising the hand there, there is really a big number of people there, even coming to 60% that might believe, that there is something in these stories, correct? And even more there. And even those who don't believe should stay at least open mind and think, is that this government of ours again playing the tricks on us? All right, possible. Because what UFO is? Unidentified flying object. Doesn't mean those are aliens. Can be anything. Are those Russians coming over, to do all this stuff? I don't know what to believe, Usually Montenegrins and Serbians are close to Russians, but they cannot even go, through Ukraine, that fast. So I don't think they will be coming to United States, that far. All right. So I don't think it's them, all right. So we always have my favorite aspect is, but I can tell you this later. I don't like to tell you my opinion about something, but I love to write down eyewitnesses and people what they saw, and then you try to find understanding what this can be that is of the earthly origin, all right? What this can be, that actually we are looking at, because when you see something, all right, people might think, oh, I saw this, I saw that. I mean, people saw something, all right? That doesn't mean to be aliens, all right? That can be. We had a lot of, actually, research was coming in our US military, especially after World War II. We also had work on different flying saucers coming from Nazi Germany at that time. For example, the NASA director, famous NASA director, Braun, what is his first name? Yes, Werner Braun. All right, he was a major of SS. All right, so SS guy was brought together in this operation Paperclip. Russians had the same operation called something different. I forgot what is called in theirs there. That was a basically race. All right, today we talk about race. Who will be first in space? Who will be first here? Who will be first there? Correct? Who's having most nuclear heads and everything else? Best technology, you know, of those. But back in time, they actually were racing throughout Germany and capturing these smart Nazis, all right, who are too smart to kill, all right. So they are capturing all these SS officers, these scientists of in Germany, and they are offering them basically amnesty to come to United States or to come to Russia and just work with them on their programs, because they were very advanced. Those Germans did lose the war, but they lost the war because they ran out of time, and they couldn't produce enough weapons to find basically 3 empires. All right, that's impossible. Same mistake they made in World War I. Me being a Serb-Montenegrin, yep, I was a part of that, you know, to start World War I and to beat those Germans, correct? You like to call that losing basically 60% of men in World War I. That was huge, you know. See how I like to fly between different subjects there, you know. But anyway, when Braun came here, you know, he was helping there with a rocket. Basically, the program was really advanced. They were sending rockets there, you know, bombing London during the war. And we wanted that technology, to use that technology maybe to bring that rocket up in space, all right? So that's how he became basically a director of NASA. Former Nazi who actually had a lot of Jewish working for him, and probably if he wasn't saved by our government, he would be sentenced to death, all right, after the war. But again, they were too smart to eliminate, correct? They can help us. So we brought basically 783 of these Nazi scientists to the United States. Russians did the same number, something like that, you know. Russians try to tell always, you know, if you brought 783, we brought at least 1,000. All right. So that's Cold War, you know, stuff, you know, that you can always read about. But anyway, there were these flying saucers. Looks like, you know, the ones that we always portray these flying objects going around. And Germans were actually having this, but they only could kind of lift it up, you know, maybe a little bit of the ground. It's coming down and everything. It wasn't that sophisticated. But basically, they brought these Nazis there, what, in 1945, 1946? And already in 1947, we have the first sighting of UFO crash in Roswell, correct, down there. We actually had one before that in Washington, I believe, stayed there. That's the first sighting of something flying, you know, reported being flying, you know, that is not of the earthly origin, you know, how they like to tell it. I always believe it is humans are also smart. Why we not giving credit to the humans? All right, we can create some of those stuff, you know, doing some of those things. But again, when you talk about people on Lake Pepin reporting these, we are talking about reports in 1970s that are really big of that time. At the time, we had a military base called in an area just above in the bluffs called the Devil's Corner. All right. They call it like that because the road goes like this and then just goes straight line, basically like this, all right? So if you're not slowing down, you are going off, all right? That's why it's called Devil's Corner. And military base was there. At the same time, we are having Air Force base in Eau Claire, Air Force base that was there forever there too, even during World War II in St. Paul. So there is idea, you know, they did something, this flying around, you know, and checking a new stuff maybe and doing different things. And we are having basically 1970s explosion of these sightings of UFOs. Everybody in America was talking UFOs. I'm sure that Hollywood have a big share on people's opinion about this. Everything seen in the sky, it's UFO, all right? This is moving there, it's meteorite. No, it's UFO, all right? But again, and then when I'm looking at the technology, we even have a stealth helicopters in 1970, that was, probably they were checking that around here too, by Lake Pepin, because some of the people saying like there is a bright light coming from sky, those fishermen there, all right? And now this is shown by the fishermen on a boat, but also shown about a group of people who are outside, over there on the shore of the Lake Pepin, I think it was by Lake Pepin beach, they're also looking at the same thing, all right? So I always like to have two sources. Then you know something was there, all right? Was it a stealth helicopter? All right, because they don't report, you know, too much noise coming from something. All right, it's moving strangely. All right, it's having a light on. The biggest report was by the police officer right here in Elmwood. All right, he died about 6 months after this incident, where he claims that he came out of the vehicle, or was in a vehicle, you know, approaching this flying object coming over, and he claims there was a beam coming down into his car, police car. He was struck there, ended up in a hospital. He was a World War II veteran, pilot, US Air Force, sheriff there for years. Those are all kind of great sources, all right? He saw something happened there. I met a mechanic there who was looking at the car, police car after that. He said that all these electronics are burned, all right, inside. All right, what happened? All right, Lake Pepin, they're talking about USOs. What is USO? How did it go?
Service organization.
Trying to think. No, it was a submerged flying object.
Okay.
Unidentified SFOs. Those shortcuts, you know, I always forget there. But they're saying that there will be objects coming down into the lake, all right, and coming out of. All right. This was very popular also in 1970s. And then we are coming to the mysteries of Lake Pepin, correct? So I like all these stories there. There is tens of these reports coming out during 1970s, but there are some that actually make and put Lake Pepin on map, all right? One of those was that in 1979 was the first report of crop circles. You hear for those before? Yeah. Crop circles, yeah. All right? The first ever reported crop circles were reported right here in the Lake City, all right? By the farmer called Curtis Olson. This kind of make a frenzy all over the United States. The first reported ever crop circles in the United States were right here in the Lake City, all right? And this brought a lot of journalists all over the world. A lot of Japanese tourists come here to spend some money on Lake Pepin. All right, in Lake Pepin area, they were all kind of trying to come there. They're talking to the Curtis. Poor Curtis was believing this is true until, you know, of course, his cousin came out and said he was actually waiting. His cousin was waiting for 8 years before he came out. Because I guess after 8 years, you cannot be charged for a wrongdoing, especially playing a prank there. He said that he made all these, you know, because he wanted to punish Curtis because he believed in UFOs so much that he actually came there overnight. He had all this stuff on his knees. He explained everything, how he made the circles and everything else. All right. He came out saying, okay, I did it. Poor Curtis, you know, never spoke to his cousin again in his life. You made a fool of me, you know, and all these years, you know, I'm giving interviews, you know, to all these international news and everything, you know. But again, there is a mystery about that too. His cousin name was David Olson. Did David Olson come there and report this just to get some of the media attention himself? All right, there is a belief of that, because some people still believe those crop circles are real. All right, how the first crop circles in United States history reported on our lands, you know, can be fake. But there is another thing. Why police was there that morning? Because David said when he's coming there just to enjoy his prank, all right, to come there by his cousin and to see if he discovered it and everything else. But when he came there, on the road there, was full of FBI agents, even FBI was there. I believe an army came in the area, police cars everywhere, newspaper agencies are there, all those newspaper cars are there, all right? They were already there, looking at these crop circles. But why they were that so early in Lake City that morning in 1979? I believe it was September of 1979. They were there because there was a policeman who that night called in and saying that he's following UFO, unidentified flying object, that is coming above Curtis's farm. And he actually was the first to come there to the farm there to investigate actually what that flying object is doing on Lake Pepin. And this is why in the morning other police came there and they found these circles there. All right. Now the chief there in Lake City, he had a Geiger, is that how it's called, Geiger? Geiger there, you know, and he's going through those craft circles, and this Geiger thing is just going crazy. All right, it's beeping. So there is a radioactive material on it. All right. So what in the world is this now? All right. So even sheriff believed, you know, all these years that this is not a prank. This is actually something that was real there. But David had a explanation for that too. He had some old watch that had some radium on, and he actually was scraping this all over. All right. And that made that Geiger thing just going like crazy. But then I'm saying, if you want to make a prank on a Curtis Olsen, who doesn't have a Geiger thing to go around, all right, aperture of that kind, why would you make that deep trick, all right, to fool your cousin? Why would you go to that extent there? You already did. What you did there, you could just sit back and just laugh, all right? But no, all right, he came out and he had story for everything. Now, there is your story there. There is a mystery, all right? Did Curtis Dave, his cousin, tell the truth? All right? Can we believe now to this sheriff deputy who actually came there first? All right? This is why they were already there, before even David arrived, at least he claims that way. So there is your mystery, for example, of that kind. All right? And now we are talking about the largest crime spree in US history that is still not solved. You all probably all hear for cow mutilations or cattle mutilations that took place during 1970s mostly, and I believe early 1980s. And almost every state reported something like this. All right. In Wisconsin, there was only 1 or 2 counties just south from you guys, all right, south from Pierce there, that reported this. All right. That was Pepin County. All right. And I believe was Dunn County, a little bit there on the border. Farmers there reported that their cattle, they found them dead. Some of them were mutilated. Looks like somebody is doing that precisely with some scalpel or something of some kind. Things are removed, all right, including parts of the mouth, parts of the stomach, genitals, just removed precisely. It looks like somebody who knows what they're doing did this. Also, a couple reports came that some of those cows don't have a drop of the blood in them. All right, everything is taken out. All right, not drop of blood. Only place in Wisconsin to have that, it's again there on Lake Pepin. So we are having a little history of there. So again, who was doing that? All right, there is 10,000 reported cases in the United States on these, still unsolved. All right, many people believe it is just they die of natural causes or they die because of animal attacks. All right, animals did this. Some people believe this is some cults, maybe initiations in colleges or universities, you know, they're coming there and doing some pranks like this. Some believe that, most believe was that they saw a lot of helicopters flying around and they saw a lot of light coming out of them. All right, so they believe that government is behind it. So in Arizona down there, I believe it was Arizona or Oklahoma, they actually had to stop flying helicopters. They ordered all police helicopters and FBI to stop flying, because farmers told them that next time they see a helicopter flying, they're going to gun it down, all right? Because they need to stay away from their cattle. FBI agent once said, you know, after investigation of all these cases, you know, I can only say that U.S. government is behind it, all right? So again, we are coming down to earth, correct? But you have also beliefs that it is coming from these aliens who are coming there. For some reason, from all living forms on earth, they decided to take cows and to take them to these boats there and to take them to those location it is, to do all these experiments on, to bring them to this farmer's land and to drop them down, all right? So, you know, some people say it is too kind of fantastic, you know, to be. All right, of course, we have some abductions of the people too, you know, that always claim they did this, but not really something so-called, I always like to call it tight proof or smoking gun. All right, I never saw something like that in many of these in all of these myths or all these things and stories I told you. All right, no smoking gun. It means you didn't find something, you know, that you can actually look at and say, okay, this is it. All right. For example, we have so many images of even Pepi, all right, the monster, and all those Bigfoot. Did I tell you that we have a Bigfoot on the Lake Pepin too? No, I didn't. All right. Well, I was talking to, there is my student there, you know, in a classroom, and I'm kind of putting some stuff together. I was just putting together the book to actually put it together with all mysteries. And his father came with him, you know, to check, of course, on his grades and behavior. That's what we parents like to check first on, all right, when you come to school. Of course, behavior was great, you know. I always think kids can improve their grades and study more, you know, but you're going to try to push them as far as you can, all right, get their interest up. And then, you know, they told me the story about, all right, yeah, we are living in a Bigfoot Valley. And I said, like, what? Bigfoot Valley? All right, tell me more about it. All right, oh, well, there is a cave called Devil's Kitchen. See, now the story is coming better, all right? So I said, all right, Devil's Kitchen story, all right? And who saw this? And then it gave me the name there, you know, Chuck. 1947, all right? A group of boys are coming down, you know, the road, all right? They're having fun. It was August, it was very warm. And now they look over there where the creek is. And not far away from them, you know, they look at somebody like, looks like it's having a fur coat on, and it is drinking some water, all right? It was my size, so you cannot miss it. All right? So he's drinking some water there, and they believe, okay, they're saying like, who is crazy enough, you know, to have all that fur on and everything, you know, just drinking water there. And then this thing kind of stood up, looked at them, all right, and just went straight to the nearby woods and disappeared. All right, this is the beginning of it. And then they hear all these sounds coming from the woods. They are reporting, you know, drumming of something, whooping sounds. Even the mother of Jackson, I believe that was the story, she said that the milkman comes there one day and said, talking about something and saying, oh, I know you guys, you're living in a Bigfoot Valley. All right, so everybody around are having those little stories there. And that's basically a valley that goes down away, if you ever was in Laura Ingalls cabin. And now you're looking towards Lake Pepin, and there is that valley going straight down towards the Bogus Creek, all right? And this is where that area there, all the way to the Bogus Creek, including Devil's Kitchen Cave, is actually a place where they are reporting Bigfoot in the Lake Pepin area. All right, not only in Winona and La Crosse, that usually is sightings down there, but also right here on the Lake Pepin. It's not the only cryptid. Pepe is the one there too. But there is a lot more cryptids that they are reporting. Even a Mothman. Mothman is reported on in a Tiffany Bottom. All right, vampire, Mineral Point and coming kind of this area here. Even in Iowa, they're having a vampire reported by police in Mineral Point. All right, who were following some tracks there, you know, and following this guy who actually jumped over the fence. They cannot. He jumped probably some fence like this. All right, how did he do it? I think I can do it if I just jump from that box there, and then I might be hospitalized. But he jumped over, and now this police, there was a snow under, all right? They came around that fence to follow the track, and of course on the other side of the fence, there is none, all right? No tracks there. And this is sheriff's deputies, all right? And they're talking among each other there. The sheriff there said that he couldn't send them in that area of that grave site again, all right, in that graveyard, all right? They didn't want to go there. All right, so you can see these kind of crazy reports coming around. All right, you can find so many. We are having so-called hellhounds of Meridian. All right, it's only about 30 miles north, or actually short, 20 miles north of Lake Pepin, right there by the Red area. If you know there, all right, they're reporting about this howling of these dogs and barking, and they are chasing people around. This famous sighting of actually two bikers who came there on the Meridian, by Meridian Island. There is also ghosts and everything else there, so I can tell you all these stories, and so many of them, so many legends and myths. All right, that they were chased by these hounds. He said there were several of them, and they had these bright red eyes. All right, and he said he was on a bike and he's going and they're running by, and he tried to kick one, and his foot just went through. All right, so this kind of like got them all scared there. They were from north of Eau Claire is Chippewa Falls, correct? They're from Chippewa Falls, and they jump on their bikes, they went 35, what comes there, 85 highway, they just keep going, all right? They didn't, they actually parked their bikes there, they didn't talk to each other for another half an hour, all right? They were shocked of this, what they saw, all right? So those reports, correct, they are crazy there. And then you follow some other ones, they have a beast, they call it Beast of Eau Claire, all right? And down all that area there of Pepin County and coming all the way to Nelson, Wisconsin, right there to Lake Pepin again, all right? They're reporting this beast coming there usually on the road, also very bright red eyes, all right? Scaring those people there, you know, even some people stop the car there looking at it, all right? They couldn't explain what it is. Maybe those are those hellhounds, same things, you know, they're seeing. So there is a lot of stories there of the people in the Lake Pepin area that try to explain something that they saw. They cannot explain what did they see. My thing is always, all right, yes, we as humans, we love to tell stories. We like to make up stories, all right? But my idea is always, if you have so many stories there, that means they saw something. What did they see? Did they just saw a small little dog barking and everything, and they just make something big up because they just got out of the bar that night, you know, and they're just going home. They see this little poodle is coming after them, you know, these bright red eyes, all right, and then the poodle just becomes bigger, you know, like a fisherman story, correct? What did you catch? A big fish, right? It was the biggest I ever saw. Right? Actually, it was just a minnow, all right? But so many little things, and then you're meeting people, you know, a good friend of mine, Bruce Peterson, all right? He's having a chapter even in the book there. In his property there, he's having a lot of Native American mounds. And he is seeing a lot of that activity there of the ghosts in his area there that he's reporting and saying, okay, he saw it, all right? He saw the guardian of the mound, all right, once that he was working on his land. He saw even a lady there walking, you know, we call it a Pepin lady, Dakota woman walking just on a prairie. Many people saw this, walking on a prairie there. Usually it's a foggy day, all right? And they see walking just over there in the fog, slowly disappearing. They call the name, just never turns around, just walks through. They can tell it is a native Dakota, all right? In her dress, and it's usually in one story, it's having like a sticks on her back. Usually you might see these images, you know, they're collecting sticks, you know, to make a fire, all right? In some images, she's having a baby, all right? They're also in a little carriage on the back, all right? So there is a lot of cool little stories, you know, you can find there. There is even a story of the sea wing boat that two groups of witnesses from both sides of the lake reported seeing, also in a foggy day. One was in a foggy day. They say they were on, how is that beach called? Hotilla? Trying to remember there, you know, just north of Lake City.
Hoaxilla.
What's that? Hoaxilla, yes. Little boy, I think it is, translation. All right. So I was there, and they were kind of hearing these bells coming out of the lake. So this is their story. The boat is coming like this and turning towards them. All right. And they could see clearly sea wing on it. And the boat just turns north and goes over there, you know, towards Maiden Rock, just in that direction. And they swear this is what they saw. And you can still, they could hear bells in a fog, or they just disappeared. And I found it interesting, you know, and I put it down, and then I'm talking to another friend of mine, Ron Erickson, and he said like, oh yeah, we were, I think in their 20s, and they like to go down there sometimes, having all these parties, and they go over there and they're jumping all in the water and swimming over there by Maiden Rock. And he said it was a nice day, a nice night, all right? The moon was really strong. They could really clearly see the lake. And then they see the steamship going by. And he said and his friends clearly could see sea wing on it, all right? It was July. By the way, the accident happened in July 13th. I'm not sure when they saw this, all right? And the boat just kept going now towards the south, just disappearing again, all right? So you find kind of like two groups of people saying something, all right? Of course, we are having the Pearl of the Lake Pepin, I believe, was a boat there. Maybe that's what it was, all right? One from the Lake City. from the same guy, Nelson. He's captain there, or used to be. He sold that boat now. He's the one that actually promised whoever gives him evidence of Pepin the monster, a good picture, or actually proof, DNA proof, that he got a monster there, gonna receive $50,000. All right. This gave a fame to Lake Pepin again, bringing a lot of people from all over the world, interviewing them. All right. I listened to some radio there from Scotland. I listened some, I read some of those, even in people coming, from all over the world, because he's talking about monster of Lake Pepin. Why he's talking about monster of Lake Pepin? See, I'm having all these slides and I never use one. I don't know why I haven't made all these. Help me there a little bit. All right.
Does anybody have any questions? I just want to make, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yes.
We've got to wind down here and then.
Please, yeah. Sorry about that, guys. I told you about handicap of the teachers, all right? We never stop. Again, most of these things you can find also in a great book here, The Greatest Mysteries of Lake Pepin. There is that little, not little, this is actually looks so big here, Bigfoot. There is Pepe, all right? There is the boat, all right? So you can find these, they're right here, available. But usually this is the first time that I was just talking there. What I like to do most of the time, I like people to ask questions. See, when I'm talking in Pepin over there, that usually goes for 3 hours. So I lose track. Looking at the booklet and everything, tell me some questions there. You have some question about any of those mysteries?
Or, you want to look at the books back here too while you're reading?
Yes.
I didn't get a chance to look at the booklet, but where did you read all this? I mean, are you finding it online, or do you find it in old archived newspapers, or where do you find all this information?
You see, I went to the museums in the area.
Yeah.
That's where you get some of those stuff first. Then you go to the libraries,
Okay.
and you get as much as you know about these county histories. All right, put that together. Then you go online. Now it is so beautiful because this French over there started translating everything into English too. All right, so you can have all these books actually online. You can find some great books of the time. All these explorers and everybody that came in the area, and you can find some great stories from that. And then newspaper articles, you find one. That means it's reported in an area in a more than one. All right, and then you are kind of compiling all this, and you just keep going. And you keep going, and sometimes you're just on the phone all the time, and you find something cool, you write down, all right? And then you keep going. Sometimes you find only one thing, all right, a day. Sometimes you find 5 or 6 new ones, all right? You just put down. And then when you have time, and we teachers usually have too much time, you can tell. Then you are going to those sites, and you find everything. You print those things, then you find some books that are written about some stuff. You compile it together, and you have your story. You put all those sources down, all right, where you found all these things, all right, and you have a story there. And it's actually a fun game, because once you start and you find so much information, it is kind of bad to stop, all right? You're going to feel that you didn't say enough, all right? And I believe I probably did. A lot of stuff. So we probably got out of 214 mysteries, we probably got 15. I would say about 30, probably 40. I was able to combine a little bit together. And the other question? Yes?
Who named Pepin?
You see, first time Lake Pepin was put together in a map in 1703. I have his name, here. I could look in a computer there to tell you exact name. He's a famous cartographer, French cartographer,
Right.
who actually for first time put Lake Pepin as a name on it. And it's a mystery actually, what is that named after. Settlers that came there, including John McCain, and later on, I told you about John McCain, I was impersonating him, in that cemetery talks, that they believe that it's actually Pepin III the Short, the famous king of France, all right, and the father of Charlemagne, a little bit more famous character of the Franks, correct, in that time, that's named after him. And then, later on, when they were looking into some of the French accounts, they realized it is probably somebody else from that area. The guys called Jean and Pierre Pepin, who were coming together. In some account, they came together in a Duluth expedition that came all the way to Red Wing and then all the way down to, probably they came as far down as Wabasha. All right, and they are looking for Father Hennepin to release him of captivity of the Dakota a year before, prior, that he was captured. So there is a lot of theories there, and I was talking here to the great person there from Stockholm. He told me some more, little stories what it might be. So yeah, that's another mystery. Why Pepin, there? Not 100% sure there, but you can come close to kind of find the right person. Any other question? Yes?
I was told by a friend that Lake Pepin used to extend all the way up to St. Paul. Is that
Yes,
true?
that's true. Remember you were talking about comparison of Lake Pepin with Loch Ness in Scotland. It is identical in a length and in a width, not in a depth. But in those things it's identical. All right? They have Nessie, we have Pepin. And our Pepin is about 80 years older than Nessie. All right? So we have something better there. But you are right. It was dammed there by where Chippewa River is coming down. All right? So it backed up water all the way to St. Paul. So the lake was a lot longer than it is. And then you can imagine that the thing broke through, finally. How much water just reshaped more land in the Lake Pepin area. So yeah, that's true. Any other question? Yes?
Number 75 is the mysterious Frenchman of Diamond Bluff, which is the first person to stay in Pierce County for any long time. What did you? I only seen. We've been working on a history with Diamond Bluff.
Yeah.
And I've only seen that written up in things much later. Did you find anything else on that besides in the history books where they're talking about 40, 50, 60 years later?
All right. Tell me again, what is the number of the mystery?
75.
If I go down here, we're going to get to, you said 75?
75, yeah.
All right. Let me see how far I am. 10 more down. Probably 82. Oh, here it is, 84. All right. Here he is. They don't have much information about him. All right. The native Navakanto Dakota, remember this old man with a long white beard. They called him Old White, they call this area Old White Man's Prairie. All right. We also know that he married a native Dakota woman and lived in a Monte Diamond until he died in 1824. By the one story, he was a Vendian loyalist who fled France between 1793 and 96 during the one of those civil wars or conflicts there, and he left with a daughter of his friend. His father tracked him down, but he escaped again, this time alone and all the way to Mississippi River. Another legend said that this man was the father of the French noble Daniel Gréon Duluth, sorry. But problem with this is, if this is true, this guy will be 150 years old when that happened. So you know that sometimes when you hear these stories, it cannot be true, but always like these myths about it. All right. What we can conclude that this mysterious Frenchman was the first white settler in Pierce County, our neighboring Pierce County. I'm down there from Pepin, here. We think we are different. Actually, I do sound a little bit different, That's how we talk down there. We have accent. All right. The area was later flooded there. So that's actually a belief there. All right. Two stories of. All right. What is true there, nobody knows. And I don't think we would ever learn unless something comes new. All right. Here are these two versions. One I just told you that cannot be. He cannot be a Duluth's father. All right. Is he the one that came there? These dates are kind of good. All right. 1796, that he escaped from there, coming all the way to Mississippi River, where he made a claim to the land here. Yeah, I might look more into it, because this is something I didn't put in a book yet, so I didn't really work on it too much. These are my notes, basically, that I'm looking. Any other question?
Well, folks, we're gonna wind it up,
Yep.
because we have to tear down and be open tomorrow. Goran, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We like this.